I just want to welcome everyone, and we would love to have any of you want to have. I can't talk today. I'm sorry. Ask any questions, about the video or about other questions about the cello or music in general, or anyway. So you can type your questions into the chat if you want, or just use the raise your hand feature. So, anyone have any questions to start? Christopher, I'm going to call on you.
Okay. How old were you when you started playing the cello? And what made you want to?
That's a good question. I started. Hello, Sean. I started when I was
that
12.
qualified for social equity. They missed that first mover's advantage to the market.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
Christopher, I started when I was 12, so that's kind of late for today's standards, right? Some of my students start when they are like 6 or 7, but I did play the piano before, which helped a lot. And after 2 years that I was playing, I was already playing a cello ensemble, which was a professional group. And, my skills were not ready for that, so I had to learn pretty fast. It's just like if you don't know how to swim and somebody just throws you in the pool and says, survive, And, but then it was awesome because we had lots of wonderful popular musicians in Rio, where I lived. And we used to play with all of them. So it was wonderful learning experience. And we traveled also. We went to England, we went to Portugal, and I was maybe 15 or 16. So everything happened very fast. And I was really not very much motivated when I was 17. I even enrolled in business administration in college. But then I met a wonderful teacher in an airplane, and she was with 2 boys and this beautiful blonde girl that was a child, I don't know, 11 or 12. And
I was 14.
14. Okay, that's Bella's age, And then I went to Kinhaven. She invited me to go to Kinhaven, and then I decided that I wanted to be a cellist. Maybe if I didn't go to Kinhaven, I would be doing something else today.
Thank you.
Never knew that.
Aw.
That's
Just so that everyone
endorsement
knows.
for Kinhaven.
What?
The strong endorsement for Kinhaven.
Yes.
I like it.
Just so everyone knows,
Sure.
Nancy Bidlack, who Fabio mentioned in the video, was Molly's mom. So.
Yeah. And the feeling that I have about Kinhaven is that I loved being there every minute of it, and the standard of music making was very high, but the feeling of friendship and love of music and love of everything that happened there was so strong that you didn't really notice that you were working hard with the music. And that's a good asset, because later on you realize that you can feel like that if you need to. Doesn't have to feel like a struggle or something that, oh God, I have to do it, I have to practice. No, you just feel like you do it because you love it. So yeah, that's why Kinhaven was such a big deal for me. And then my teacher, Nancy, took me for auditions in New York. And I ended up, when I got my acceptance at Juilliard, same year as Sean, I don't know where he went, he was there. And then I got a letter saying...
He could also be at some committee meeting right now.
Oh.
Yeah, probably. he, he said, well, the letter said, you're accepted and you're gonna study with Harvey Shapiro. And I just remember Nancy saying, oh no, why? But she was so concerned because he was a little bit of a rough teacher, but and Shapiro was her teacher when she was a teenager, but apparently he was never rude to her. It was only afterwards, but he taught me quite a lot, and but it wasn't easy.
So you went to Yale, right? Is that what
No,
you studied with Parisot?
no, actually, they started with Parisot. Is quite interesting because at Juilliard I couldn't really talk to Parisot because I was studying with Shapiro, and if you studied with one of those old guys, you could not talk to the other one. You know, it was heretic thing to do. If I said, oh, I wanted to see a lesson with Mr. Parisot, he was like, then go and don't come back. You know how it was. But then my connection with Parisot was more afterwards. Actually, when I studied with Krosnick in my master's degree, he used to talk a lot about Parisot. Parisot was his like big cello hero, and Krosnick's father was a doctor, and Mr. Parisot at the time was a little bit hypochondriac, so he used to be in Mr. Krosnick's house all the time, basically. And but he used to say, well, you have to hear what Parisot has to say, and it's all wonderful. But I never really studied with him. But then after I came to Natal, I went to see him. Actually, last time I saw him, I think last time I saw you and Sean, actually, Molly, and Rachel. And we spent like 4 or 5 hours talking, and he was very curious about Natal, his hometown, and it was much better than any lesson that I could ever had with him because it was very personal. And then he would keep calling and asking about Natal, and then we became very close together. And Ole Akahoshi, who was his assistant for many years and now is a full-time teacher at Yale, he just told to me the other day, I was very honored. He said, well, Mr. Parisot, before he died, he used to introduce you as his grandson who teaches cello in Brazil.
Oh.
So he was very connected to all the music movement here in Natal in the end.
That's lovely. That's really great. He was, I went to Yale and he was teaching there still when I was there.
Really?
But I didn't get to do much with him. So, but I know his students just loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had some, I think, well, the story that he was always 60, I think it's quite fascinating. Last time I spoke to him, he was 99, and he said, you know, Fabio, I'm getting really old. I'm already 60. I said, but when he turned 60, he decided that he was not going to get any older. So he was always 60 until he was 100.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Great.
And he really believed on those things, and he really believed that he could achieve whatever he wanted. And one of his stories that I like the most is when he played with New York Phil the first time. And he told me, you know, I was sitting there and thinking, I came from a small village in Brazil. Natal is only 20,000 people. And now I'm sitting here at Carnegie Hall playing with New York Phil. I'm the best cellist in the world. And then he said, the moment I left the stage, I knew that there were at least 200 people that played much better than I did. But when I was on stage, I never doubted myself. I always thought, no one could do better than I could at that moment. And sometimes we go on stage and we are scared, so that's one of the things that I learned from him. Leave that for later, you know.
That is a great, it's like words to live by, you know. Yeah, that's really wonderful. Any other questions? I see a bunch of you with no,
I have a question.
who is speaking right now?
Are you ready?
Molly?
Me.
Oh,
You don't see me?
Your screen is
I
frozen.
do, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So
I
my
can hear you,
question
though.
is technical, and it's about your video, because you talked a lot about breathing in your video, and more than I've heard most string players talk about breathing. And I wonder if you actually like map out like a wind player where you're going to breathe when you play.
Actually, yeah, this is a really good question. I do. I don't know if I do it as often now, but for some time I planned carefully how to breathe. And I learned a lot from singers, and actually breathing was a big thing for those old style teachers. Shapiro used to speak about it, Parisot also. And when it comes to performing, I think if we focus on breathing, that's when you put everything together. So actually, Parisot had this, this also I learned from that afternoon with him. He was just doing this exercise with the funny noises as you practice. So you go on the down bow like, so you hear your breath until the very end. So yeah, and also the other person who I heard a lot talking about breathing was Mark Kossower, principal cellist of Cleveland, and he was my, he was a good friend, you know, our Juilliard days, and I always bugged him to tell me what Starker taught him. And the funny thing is that Mark, when he arrived at Indiana, he was already a world-class soloist. But he used to sit in the lessons of the students who were like teenagers, or every lesson that Starker gave, because he wanted to learn, because he used to say like, I can play with easy, it's easy for me now, but it might not be later. So I need to know what happens. And that's why he's such a great teacher. You know, he knows how to solve any problem in the cello, and big cello doctor. But when I saw in his teaching that he was doing a lot of the breathing exercises, and I saw the effects, I said, well, that's something that we need to approach more and map more carefully. In my playing definitely helped, but with the students also. And you know, you guys like Kenny, you know everything about it. Actually, wind players, they really map, right, where they do it, if it's fast, if it's long, or. But I have a feeling that it really helps for us also.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah. Noah, do you have any questions that you want to ask? Noah is a cellist. He's in Primavera Fund.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hello, Noah.
I don't know if he's just maybe listening.
And I see
He's also quite
Carolina
shy.
Carolina is from Argentina. She plays in the Rosario Philharmonic, wonderful orchestra in Argentina. Gustavo is from São Paulo, and Clara is from Bahia. So we have international setup here today, South American setup.
Yeah, that's great.
This is cool.
Well, I mean,
somebody asked on the chat during the video. I just got all curious and translated the Portuguese about, and I think it said, "Can you talk about vibrating the thumb?"
Yes, actually, I think the point of vibrating with comfort in thumb position is first of all a technical thing. That's why I talked so much about not bending the wrists backwards, because then all your movements get blocked. But before I actually go into that, I have a funny story. When there was a moment in my Juilliard years that Shapiro forbid me to practice at home. He said that every time I picked the cello, I sounded worse. So what the thing that he did was really phenomenal. For a month, I just went to his house for 10 minutes every day and practice with him. So he was teaching me how to actually practice and not how to repeat um, things that were not necessarily helping. But then one day he called me and he said, and he was probably 98 or 9, I don't know. He said, I learned how to vibrate with the thumb. And I said, okay, and then I arrived to his house and his thumb vibrato was better than the other fingers. And I was like, you know, how's that possible? But he had a whole theory about the thumb joint, which is like, so you're not down here or weak, but you're sort of strong. And then you get the same structure as the other fingers. Because if you're weak here, then you tighten up the other parts of the arm. So that was his thing with the thumb joints. But I guess Gustavo was asking also about vibrating thumb positions, because people are so comfortable here, then they go up and they get locked. But first thing is the lineup of the arm, I think. And then the thing about what Nancy was so good with is, you know, if it feels good in the fourth position, should feel good up here. It's the same thing, same arm. And then you have to identify what's happening. If the hand's not moving, you're either pressing with the thumb or you're putting the first finger down too hard, but these things are subtle. That's the thing. They're most of the times not very obvious. So, you know, you have to really dig into them and look as somebody from a bomb squad. They're trying to cut the right wire, and it's hard to find the right one. That's the thing, you know. But the thing is that if it's out of balance, and maybe I think that Rachel agrees with that, because if in the violin it's the same thing. If you're out of balance, it's virtually impossible. Or maybe people can do it for a while, but then they'll get either tendonitis or, you know, all kinds of other problems. But yeah, that's the answer to Gustavo's question.
Great. Yeah, it is very much the same. I always feel like so much of my practicing is like eliminating things rather than, you know, piling them on.
Yeah, I like the analogy actually when I teach of that sometimes we are like sculptors and not like painters. Like you get from a, you know, big piece of stone and and Michelangelo made David. And so you have to take things out.
Right.
And not add layers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
I think it's funny you just said that, because Sean often, especially when he's talking about teaching his students at Kinhaven, he'll do the chisel and like he's a sculptor. So it's funny that you brought that up, because it's a common way that our group of friends think about. It's true.
Cool.
Christopher? You're here. Wait, you're muted for some reason. I'm gonna unmute you. Can I? There.
Oh, my question was, what would you give your younger self looking back now as a musician?
Sorry, Christopher, you got cut a little bit. Can you say again, please?
Oh, what advice would you give your younger self looking back as a musician?
You know, that's a very good question. You know, I try to reconnect many times with the feelings that I had when I was a teenager. I guess you have many dreams as a teenager, and especially when you go to a place like a musician's Disneyland, like Kinhaven, that everything seems so perfect. And then, real life will just sometimes throw you off your the path that you really want to go. But I guess reconnecting as you grow older to your original feelings about music, and don't allow people to kill your dreams, because many people will try to do that, or discourage you, or because it's actually their own frustrations that come when they do that to you, and that will happen, I think, in any profession actually. And but the feelings that you have now at your age, they're very pure about music. So whenever I feel that I'm losing things, I try to reconnect with. So I don't know if it's the advice I would give is, stick to your feelings about music, about what you love. And if you feel that strongly, nobody can touch it. It's yours, no matter what they say, or, but then an advice for later is persistence is probably the biggest key, I think. Um, many of my colleagues at Juilliard that I thought would be big stars, they didn't really move on too much. And some people who were very intelligent and persistent and they loved music, they just created their own paths, and they're doing very interesting stuff. So, Christopher, just stick to your feelings and hold on to them. And music's a wonderful path. I'm learning every day. I'm sad because I had the corona, and I thought I was immune now, so I was going to the hospitals and playing for people, but apparently I'm not anymore. New research just came yesterday in Nature magazine, and I'm frustrated because I was starting to think about other things. Like, we always practice to play in theaters, right, and concerts, but then I went to the hospitals and played for the nurses, for doctors, for people who were cleaning the hospitals. And, it was such a wonderful feeling. They had wonderful comments, very intelligent comments about the cello, very intelligent questions. And I feel like they're going to keep listening to the cello. Maybe if they went to a concert hall, they would be like, oh God, I have to sit here for 2 hours without looking at my phone. Or if they, the biggest sign of success of my hospital concerts is that if people start filming. And if you do that in a concert hall, people are going to be like, put it down, So we learn from music every day, and that's the biggest advice, just to keep your original feelings.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
that
very
is great
welcome.
advice. Wow. Yeah.
I don't know, Rachel, if you feel, and Kenny, and Molly, what you feel, but I of course, Kinhaven was like Disneyland, as I said. It's a perfect environment with wonderful music and friends that stay your friends you stay friends for the rest of your life. And but then you go on to college, and sometimes your colleagues are not as nice, or you see weird things at auditions. The one who should get in doesn't, and then somebody else who is, I don't know what, it's part of the business. It just happens. But then you sort of start to feel weird about music at one point. But the original love that you have for it is always there. And I don't know, right? You try to reconnect. And maybe the wonderful work that you do at the Primavera Fund, it has a lot to do with that. What's the meaning of music? I remember in '96 when I arrived in New York, Joe Krosnick had all the cellists together for a meeting, and he used to say that cello means a lot more than Dvorak concerto. I was like, blah. I just want to play the Dvorak concerto well. Yeah. But then, now I really understood what was his point at the time, and how those things, and we're living at a historical moment now, and not only in the US, with all the how to say, the protests and the manifest here in Brazil, it's the same. And there's a very strong movement of young Brazilian musicians who came from the social projects that have a, you know, a whole different profile. And I think that it's good that we're in this transition phase, because those things really, you know, they can bring you down during your path when you see weird things. But things are changing, and if we connect to our original feelings, it's always best.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely. And also, I mean, I would just add to that, like, when you're young and you have certain dreams, you know, to be in an orchestra or be a soloist or whatever they may be, those might change later on, and that's okay. You know, I was in an orchestra, full-time orchestra, for 12 years, and I loved it for a long time. And then I just didn't want to do that forever. So, you know, it's like you said, you know, connecting with why do I really do this, was sort of where I was with that, which was what eventually led to Primavera Fund. So, you know, there's a lot of different ways to be a musician. And there's a lot of different kind of meaningful work to do in music. And yeah, where you end up may not be where you thought you would, but that can sometimes be okay, and maybe even better. So
Well, most of the times, even better, right?
yeah.
Somebody told me in New York that I would be in Natal. I was like, where is that? I didn't even know, you know. And actually today I just had a very interesting experience. This cellist friend of mine that I didn't meet for like 15 years gave me a call. And he's like, well, I'm an amateur cellist now, and I run an investment company. And I feel that now I have enough money that I want to go back to music, not necessarily playing only, but finding resources for talented musicians. And I was like, well, this is a wonderful way of making music, you know. There are so many ways to fulfill your dreams with it. And I was like, oh, Gustavo, I'm very happy that you came back to the music business. We need people like you know, that know how it is, know how it feels, and have access to this other part also.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we could take probably one more question if anybody has any. And if not, then thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. Like I said,
I just want to say real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Just real quick, I just wanted to thank you, Fabio, for doing this. You make the cello look so easy, dude. And I mean, I feel like I could go do those things. I'm a trumpet player, for those of you who don't know. But I mean, it's great. And thank you so much for doing it. I mean, I can't imagine, you know, the benefit this will bring our kids. It's great. Thank you so much.
Well,
Yeah.
Thanks to you.
I was saying, now I want to go practice after watching the videos. And everybody, please stay safe and healthy. And Fabio, we hope we get to see you again in person sometime sooner rather than later, here or there, maybe.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks to you for the invitation. I had lots of fun with it, and it was nice practicing my English again before it all goes. But thank you very much. This was very nice. Nice to meet you, Christopher. Good to see you, Carolina, Marlizinha, Kenny, Rachel. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks to you.
Bye.
Bye.